Welcome back to another episode of Talk Dead to Me, the only Walking Dead podcast with the guts to start at season 10. I am your host, Johnny Odell. I'm the social media manager for The Walking Dead. With me, as always, our podcast producer, Alexander August, and Skybound Games producer, Woody Tondorf. Guys, how the hell are you?
So good.
Look me in the eyes when you ask me that question. I don't think that you actually give a shit.
I generally just put a mirror in front of my face and I ask the mirror the questions. Sometimes it answers back without me saying anything.
That's exciting. Folks, if you are listening to this on a podcast platform like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, what have you, we are available on all major platforms, and it would really help our visibility if you could be so kind as to rate us and review us, show us a little love so we can climb those rankings.
5 stars equal high fives. And that's science. Anyways, for this episode, it's all Negan. You read it in the title. It's Talk Negan to Me. This is basically a damn classic Negan segment, but for an entire episode. We're going to talk about our favorite Negan bits. We're going to speculate a little bit about season 10. We're going to talk about, is he a hero? Is he a villain? Where is he on the spectrum? And then we're going to go into some classic Negan lines that can be used in the bedroom.
Ooh.
Saucy episode today.
More than you'd think, to be honest with you.
We found some winners.
Almost every Negan line that I've seen can be used in the bedroom.
Literal endless.
He gives you a lot of overt ones where he is very graphic about the nature of his relationship with you. But the ones where you don't see it, that are used out of context, are perfect. You're going to find out at the end of the episode, so stick around. It's going to be great.
And before we get into that, we're going to dive into some headlines as we've been doing the last few weeks. Up top, some sad news. This week marked the passing of Mr. Peanut. And this came as a shock. I know he was, in his hundreds, which is usually a dangerous time to be alive. But
he was still pretty jaunty. Always looked great. He didn't look 100 at all.
No, he was looking great. But you know what? That is the money and Botox that you can spend when you shill for your own people to be consumed by the humans for decades.
This is true. He definitely sold his soul to some sort of peanut deity.
Yeah, and that's not my joke. That's Anaconda's joke, but it still fits. The idea that this fucking oligarch who's been out just marching trillions of peanuts to their demise so he can afford a top hat and a monocle. How dare he? Death came too late for Mr. Peanut.
And spats. Don't forget spats.
And the spats. Oh, the damn spats.
I'm actually surprised that Sonny the Cuckoo Bird outlasted Mr. Peanut because of all the cocaine he does.
Yeah, I was going to say, Captain Crunch has put in some, hardy time in the sea and, probably a few ports a call to, never have anything go wrong for Captain Crunch and his Crunch Berries. Okay.
Yeah, Cocoa Puffs is code for cocaine, and that's what they put in the cereal. So
I personally think the Burger King has just all of these mascots in complete terror and fear for their lives.
Ooh, name drop. I won't say which restaurant, but there's a restaurant in the Valley that my girlfriend used to work at, and we went last night, and the guy who runs it also is the Burger King mascot.
Shut the front door.
Really?
The guy in the suit in the commercials?
The guy in the big old mascot suit who's very creepy and watches children as they sleep. He's like Santa Claus without the gifts.
But also came with burgers. He always handed a burger over.
The guy that goes to wild, eyes wide shut sex parties with Gritty.
That 100% happens.
You'll never get that out of your head now. That is in there indelibly, like Sharpie on your brain.
It's like, wow, Mr. Met is here too?
Oh, Mr. Met, we have... Not a lot of people know that's how Dave from Wendy's died.
Yeah. Also, we got some exciting Skybound Games news. Woody, let's do it.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. So first and foremost, if you own a VR headset, first of all, congratulations on your space and your wealth. But The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is now out on VR. You can get it on Steam. You can also get it on PlayStation 4 VR later on this spring in the US. And in Q2 in Europe and the rest of the world. It is terrific. It takes place in New Orleans. It is the early reviews have been terrific. It's sitting at at a B- at Metacritic, which is really, really good for a VR game. Everybody says it's the best zombie VR game you can buy. So if that's your thing, it's certainly mine. Go and pick it up. And if you don't have VR like myself, or you have a Nintendo Switch, we have seasons 2 and 3 of Telltale's The Walking Dead is now on Switch.
Woo!
So you can go and pick that up, and that makes the entire collection. Seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 are on Nintendo Switch. Go pick that up. And finally, this will get a lot of people on PC very excited. If you are really mad at Epic Game Store, congratulations, your holdout was rewarded. Telltale's The Walking Dead is now coming back to Steam. That happened already, so go and check that out and buy that on PC.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. These are all good things.
I am, as somebody who is like, I don't play a lot of video games, but I really like VR. And every time I get the chance to do it at a convention or at, some sort of like Dave & Buster's or whatever, 2-Bit Circus or whatever, I really like it. And so anytime they were offering playtests of Saints and Sinners, I definitely did it. And it's what I like about it so much is just that, I don't know, it's that kind of indelible VR thing when you can actually feel the things you're not actually doing. Like I axed a walker. And you can, the way it makes you struggle, you can feel, it feels like you're pulling the axe out of a walker's skull. I can't really describe it. And then like just doing the training, they kind of train you how to pick up your weapons, and then a walker will come at you and you have to kill them with what you've got and use the moves. I kept dropping my pistol and kept having to get down again, and the walker was getting closer and closer until finally I was crouched on the ground, grabbed the gun, and like closed my eyes and just shot up. And I killed it, and it was I really felt like I was in the show.
That's
Not
awesome.
kidding.
Yeah.
And, shout out to the serial killers out there who can totally relate to that because, on these zombie shows, they make it seem so effortless to, like, just put an axe in someone, put a knife in someone. But, those brains, those skulls are thick, and they really get stuck. And I think an anonymous serial killer podcast, like, instead of like having like two frat girls like go over like grim headlines, I'd rather just have like actual serial killers who have the experience and they have an anonymous podcast. I would listen to that,
This is a very specific ask, but I can get there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
That would be if it just kind of came out like via the dark web and nobody could trace it. It just showed up. That said, like, yeah. Anyway,
We will identify your voice immediately, Johnny. You realize that, though. We'll recognize you. You're going to do like a voice dampener or something like that?
Yes. Wait. Did I just implicate myself?
Yes, you
yes,
did.
you did.
We got him. All right. Police?
Anyway, Saints and Sinners. If you really like, what struck me too about it was that like if you really are a fan of The Walking Dead, this is. I presume you are if you're listening to us. It felt really, really immersive in kind of a cool way. Like, I think if whoever gets to try this is going to be really excited.
If you've ever wondered, like, would I make it in the universe of The Walking Dead, I cannot advocate for this game enough. Like, this is the truest test that you will ever get to, will I make it in the zombie apocalypse?
Spoiler alert, you won't.
You won't.
Yeah, I did not get very far, I should tell you that.
All right, before we move on to the Negan episode, we're going to do a little news segment called Conspiracy Corner. So everyone get your tinfoil, wrap it tight around your head, and we are going to dive in to a big old conspiracy. All right? Imagine Abigail Breslin from Signs.
Your tinfoil hat is amazing. That scrapes the ceiling.
It hurts my circulation. All right, so Woody, we have a conspiracy alert. Go for it.
Okay. I don't know how many of you saw this, but there was a Robert Kirkman essentially tacitly confirmed or gave an explanation for the zombie plague. Somebody was asking a question on Twitter. Hey, would you explain, like, by the way, like how the zombie plague started? And he just goes, space spore.
Yeah, listen, I love that. And anyone who doesn't know Robert, you just have to know that he is kidding like 99% of the time. And a lot of people take it as like tacit confirmation, but it's not. He is always kidding. So Space Spore, it is probably 99% chance a joke. But if you think about it, how else would everyone in the world contract something if they're not going to like other countries? I mean, there's probably civilizations who never interact with the modern world, and it seems like they probably have it. So why not a space spore? Why not just some sort of, element that just hits Earth and just kind of blankets it, and everyone gets this, and for some reason animals are unaffected?
That's how space spores work. Look, he used to jokingly say when he was asked for an answer, he'd be like, "It's aliens. We're gonna find out that it's aliens." And I think when he first pitched it, he was jokingly saying like it's aliens.
Yeah,
right?
he pitched it to Image Comics saying that there would be aliens here, and 10 issues in, they're like, so when are the aliens coming? He's like, oh, I was kidding. But the comic was doing so well that they didn't care. They're like, oh, all right, whatever.
Well, then 86 the aliens, I guess.
Listen, I'm just mad that the Walking Dead comic ended after 193 issues, and in none of those issues did we ever discuss what caused it, and we never got an answer to that question. And fans always ask me all the time. I'm sure you guys don't want to know the answer, but I do want to know the answer. So Space Spores is canon to me, just to me, not to anyone else, and I have accepted it, and now I can finally sleep at night.
I generally I feel the opposite about does the leftovers of The Walking Dead, do you need an explanation for this thing that caused the world? No, you don't. I think you do when you have established, in Last of Us, how do the monsters work, or in a vampire movie, how are they made? If you have to explain the rules and it informs your world, then I think you do have to give an origin to the thing. If it's not important, it's just how these people get along, then I don't think you're obligated to give any sort of information. That said, I feel like this has all the earmarks of Robert Kirkman actually thinking that it started from a space spore and just putting that in there being who's going to give a shit? It's far away enough.
And that reminds me, a few years back when At Midnight was a thing, Robert appeared as a guest, and, Chris Hardwick sort of jokingly asked him, so, what happens in The Walking Dead? And he's like, well, soon, Glenn, played by Steven Yeun, is going to meet a guy named Negan who has a bat, and he's going to put him on his knees and bash him over the head while everyone watches. And the audience was just in complete silence. It's actually fun to watch that clip again because everyone was like, wait, what? Because most of them hadn't read the comics. So they're like, wait, what are you talking about? So I'm just saying it is possible where he knows that a lot of people assume he's joking, so he'll actually say the truth, and then people will assume it's a joke. So it's kind of like a reverse thing, like when Weird Al was on 30 Rock and they had to make him normal. Anyway.
Right. No, if he had given this answer to Entertainment Weekly or The Hollywood Reporter or something like that, I'd be like, oh, he's just fucking with them. But there's just something about the answer and the closeness in thematic connection to aliens.
Right.
Because, every lie has a shred of truth in it.
Yes.
Part of me thinks that he just left that in there being like, good one, Robert.
100%. And also he did Space Spore, period. He used punctuation as in yes. Definitive. Right. So anyway.
There's your answer.
So Space Spore, looks like we've cracked it, guys. We can end the podcast.
Or did we?
Ooh,
Conspiracy Corner.
All right, that wraps up Conspiracy Corner. I actually like this segment. We should do more Conspiracy Corners.
Oh, 100%.
Now on to one of our favorite segments. We haven't been able to do it during hiatus, but it's back, baby. And that segment is called
Damn! Classic Negan.
All right, so we're going to start off this Damn Classic Negan segment with some of our personal favorite Negan hits, scenes, moments, lines, whatever.
There's so many.
So many from the comic and or the show. And for Alexander, we're going to make her do the comic because she's read every issue.
Oh, yeah, come at me.
Just kidding.
What you don't know is last night, Alexander was up for 12 hours just pouring through omnibuy after omnibuy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She has one of those Matrix programs where you can just learn karate in a second.
Yeah.
You just download it to your brain.
I wish. I wouldn't be a podcast producer if I did.
I wish
Trust
I could do
me,
that.
I would be an assassin and somebody who could fly.
All right. So, Woody, why don't you give us, you look excited, what is your favorite Negan moment?
First of all, that's just my face. Second of all, favorite Negan moment from the comics is the Whisperer training montage.
Oh, yes.
When he sticks the pig with the arrow and he's like, did you see that shit? I am fucking awesome. Having this man-child just frolic through the forest with the Whisperers was just the height of comedy, and I just deeply, deeply loved it. And when it comes to the TV show, this is probably recency bias, but the conversation with the kid about nut tapping in your first car and being on a plane, that whole conversation or not conversation, monologue was just wonderful.
Yeah, Negan's not great at the back and forth.
Yeah, it's the Negan show. Nobody else has that back and forth.
For me, I personally, for the comics, I also loved all of his interactions during the Whisperer War, especially with Beta in issue 154. He calls him limp dick giant fuck you, softy McDickface. And I think it just really just shows his sort of contempt for anyone taller than him, anyone who assumes that they're more powerful than him. It's great. And I don't know if he sounds like Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the comics. He probably sounds more like Henry Rollins, who he was, modeled after. That's a true fact.
True facts.
True facts. My favorite moment in the show, it's hard to actually pick one, but I'm just going to go with one that really stands out, is actually the episode in season 7 when Carl infiltrated the sanctuary and Negan, instead of killing him, decided to take him under his wing and kind of show him his way of life. Here's all of my wives who are so not psyched to be here. Here are all the people who have to bow down to me. And and then I'm going to show you how justice works around here. What's that? My doctor said something bad about me. Into the furnace. And
Where's the iron?
It was just such a good, like, world-building exposition episode that, like, every moment of it, you're having fun. And you're on the edge of your seat. You don't really know what's going to happen. You figure Carl isn't going to die, but still, it played out just like it did in the comics. And there you go.
When he's practicing the bat swings while Carl is singing "You Are My Sunshine," like that shit is chilling.
All right, so Alexandra, what is your favorite Negan moment?
I got a couple comics and show as well. Thank you very much. Negan's, I think, like so many Walking Dead fans, it's not new. Negan is one of my favorite characters too. A, because of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performance, and B, just because I love villains are more interesting than heroes any day of the week to me, and I like a villain who likes being a villain and who really has some fun with it, and that's very much Negan. So season 7 and 8 for me were a buffet of Negan. I also enjoyed it, if you will. And it kind of, as I was covering the show at that point, and I needed to write a lot about this, and so I kind of delved deep into the comics lore, mostly focused on Negan, and came across Here's Negan, the one-off comic Skybound created for Negan's background, which you can actually purchase at store.skybound.com.
Thank you.
And if you want to just buy it separately, if you're a Negan stan like me but haven't read a ton of the Walking Dead comics, I really liked that story.
By the way, I love your inflection with "Here's Negan," like it's like a hide and seek book. Guys, I found him.
That's adorable. It's like a little baby Negan with like a tiny bat.
I'm
gonna kick his shins.
Hey, there's Baby Yoda, there's Baby Sonic, and we know there's gonna be Baby Peanut.
I'm so not looking forward to any of this, by the way. Pardon me. Here's Negan.
Okay, so now it's The Shining.
Way better. I like that.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure that was the implied inflection of that. I'm just like, can someone ask Robert that next time we see him? Next time?
No, I think it was definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh, here's Negan. He's right here, standing behind a baseball bat. We can see you very clearly. Anyway, go buy that book. Sorry, go on.
So I like Here's Negan, specifically the moment of him, kind of one of the first early scenes of him in his garage teaching the kids how to play ping pong, but Negan doesn't know how to be sensitive or nice, really, and he just winds up making them cry. And then he has this like kind of great like shaking, scratching his head moment of, I didn't mean to make him cry. Darn it. And his wife is like, well, don't yell and swear at them, and why are the kids in the garage with you? You're their PE school teacher. It's just, I don't know, just kind of, it amused me to see a picture of Negan who was definitely trying to be the Negan in the post-apocalypse, pre-apocalypse, but really couldn't do that within the structures of his real life. And so it's kind of fun to see that character popping through in those moments. For the show, kind of around the same district as your moment, Johnny. My favorite moment is at the end of season 7 when there's the confrontation in Alexandria. And Carl tricks Negan into thinking that he wants to talk, and he does it, and Negan just shouts, "Carl, you little asshole! I thought we were having a moment." And it's just so, his disappointment is so genuine, but the delivery is so funny. And then like that kind of next to Sasha popping out of the coffin and him freaking out, and all of a sudden Shiva like runs into frame, which is a moment I feel like we were all waiting for since we saw Shiva, and he's like, "Damn tiger."
Holy shit!
Yeah, and like one thing I like that kind of differentiates Negan from the Governor for me is that Negan is not super in control of his emotions, and he's not a guy who's that. Negan is too fun-loving and too kind of young at heart, I think, to be truly sinister. And so it's fun to see him just genuinely get surprised and upset and like kind of behave a little bit immaturely, because it makes him a little bit more charming while he's just killing people at random.
Yeah. Negan enjoys himself, which is part of the reason that the character is so intriguing to me. Kind of like Will Arnett's Batman in the Lego Batman movie. Like, he likes doing this stuff. He enjoys it. And I think there's something too, like you enjoy your work, you enjoy your job, you never work a day in your life,
100%.
All right, so now we're going to move on to some little speculation about the second half of season 10. Negan, as we've seen in the trailer, is obviously going to be in it. Last time we left him, he is in the Whisperer camp. He has infiltrated it, or has he joined? Who knows? So what do you guys think is going to happen? I know what happens to him throughout the rest of the season. Because I'm omniscient.
I love you.
Drink.
Stop.
In the Talk Dead to Me drinking game, anytime that Johnny says, "I've seen the episode," you finish your drink.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so Alexander, what do you think is going to happen to Negan in the second half? Like, do you think, A, is he going to live or die? And B, what is like his arc?
I don't think my heart will let me truly consider a Negan-less world. So I think he's gonna live. I think he's just too entertaining to die, and that is a form of plot armor in and of itself. And I think he has some more story left, even if he comes back. Just because I think there's going to be a leadership vacuum in Alexandria, and Woody keeps pushing the idea of Negan sort of overtaking Michonne's role. And while I don't think that will happen, I do think he'll try if given the opportunity. So I think he'll survive, and I think that I personally think he's infiltrated the Whisperers in order to help in any way he can. I think he's mentally sort of sacrificed his own life. He doesn't want to go back to prison, and he probably is going to think like, okay, I'm just going to fuck these guys up as much as I possibly can before they kill me, and that'll be it. At least I get to be Negan and use my bat before I go.
Classic Negan. Damn. All right, Woody.
I'm well established within this podcast as calling a very big shot that Negan will be running Alexandria by the end of the season. So we know that in the books, like, Negan's role becomes far less, to the point of like almost non-existence, except for a quick moment after the Whisper War. And since we're facing that in the show, we're also in the TV show, like, we're in a Rickless world, we're in a Carl-less world, and I think there is a big leadership vacuum that needs to be filled by this anti-hero character. I think they have put a lot of work into getting Negan to a spot where the rest of the characters don't want to root for him, but you have to accept it because he's turned himself around. Conversely, now that we're really thinking about it, I have never really considered that Negan could die in this season. That said, we have now gone on this entire journey where, like you just said, Alexandra, like, in his mind, he's prepared to die because he's not going back into that prison or anything like that. Like, he's now on his path wherever it leads. And I could see him getting to a point where, like, he is now in, like, the ultimate, like, gift or sacrifice to Rick, who has shown him that this world can be good and right. He sacrifices himself for it so everybody else can live. That's a really interesting and terrific conclusion to the Negan character arc. But he's going to be running Alexandria by the end of the season.
All right. I love those takes. Now, talking about Negan, since this is an all Negan episode, a lot of people wrestle with his morality. And like you mentioned, Alexandra, the governor was kind of just straight up evil. There wasn't a ton of wiggle room, except with his daughter, but even that was weird.
Yeah, even that was real
bad.
Dysfunctional.
Strange behavior. I'm personally in the camp that in season 6, even though Negan's people, quote unquote, started it, you know, he had some saviors who had a rocket launcher and threatened Daryl, and Daryl literally blew them up. But later, they retaliate and they sleep murder like 40 of them, and then Negan retaliates against them by just killing 2 of them, which I think was kind of generous, even though as horrifying as it was to see Glenn and Abraham go, Negan could have just wiped them all out. They're all there on their knees, and, you know.
It's a proportionate response.
But anyway, after the time jump and everything, you know, with him sitting in jail and, you know, he's saving Judith, he's helping Michonne with advice on how to handle Alexandria, stuff like that, he's kind of become a different person. So how do we feel about Negan now? Is he still a bad guy?
No. Negan is a terrific anti-hero who just happens to go up against the larger, like, quote-unquote protagonist group. And as we have established on multiple occasions, Rick is a villain who will go and murder everyone in his path. And if you just shift the perspective just a little bit, Rick becomes a monster who can't possibly be left to operate. And he's only, like, lionized because he won.
I don't know. I'm definitely as much of a Team Negan person as I can be because I enjoy him so much. And I think they very intentionally told an Antihero Redemption story with Negan. So I think now it's pretty safe to say Negan has chosen a life in which he does not victimize other people unnecessarily. And the point about them, the survivors, sleep murdering a team of his people, I do think that isn't. I do think that could be talked about more in general when it comes to Negan's perspective in that. But I also think we're forgetting, we're sort of intentionally overlooking the idea that before a bunch of his people were sleep murdered, Negan was victimizing 2 separate groups of people, the Kingdom and Hilltop, and forcing them to pay tribute to him and behaving violently if they were like, hi, maybe no, like, we need this kind of stuff, if they protested. So he was a tyrant and a dictator and a violent one who had multiple wives, who weren't, like, choosing to be there. So I think whether or not Negan's a villain really depends on when you catch him and what sort of the context of that situation is, which, because of that grayness, that gray area. Like I said, he's not like the governor. He's certainly not like Alpha, these people who have just completely embraced darkness or have like just fallen over to their grief, and their bitterness has kind of become who they are. I don't think Negan is that, which is interesting when you consider how much he's lost in his wife. But I do think Negan has done some insanely screwed up shit, and Glenn and Abraham being kind of the least of it.
Rip.
So it's, again, indeed, rip. But I think that's what makes his story all the more satisfying, and the reason why he's been able to stick around as much as he has, unlike other villains, and actually do kind of a 180, and that's been fun to watch.
I think it's all a function of time too, because we're ingesting all of this in the 20 teens, and now we're in the roaring 20s. But when you look at the character of Negan, and I think back to like how much like Robert Kirkman really enjoyed writing him. To me, if you were to put The Walking Dead in like the 80s or early 90s, like Negan is 100% that like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger type guy who's out there being like super cool macho guy in a leather jacket, swinging a baseball bat, saying cool things and having a great time across the apocalypse, just banging hot chicks like making his way and trying to establish order in a crazy world of freaks.
Pop collar Jerry curl.
Negan's favorite like all-time pop culture characters, at least two of them are A, the Terminator, and B, the Punisher. 100%.
Oh, absolutely. And like a little bit of like a Sly Stallone and Cobra.
Who's a big 80s action fan.
Johnny, you weren't alive.
Sorry.
I was alive for 16 days in the 80s. And it was a good time. I love the 80s. I miss them.
I love the 80s.
So as we were talking about in the comics, after the Whisper War, Negan survives, but is kind of exiled away. And I hope if somehow whatever happens through the Whisper War, if he makes it on the other side of it, I hope that he can go back to Alexandria and be accepted, because it's crazy that we've gone from the point in season 7 where Negan literally locks Daryl up as a prisoner, a slave that he tortures, and now in season 10 there was a point where Negan clearly killed someone on accident, but still killed someone, and Daryl's the one standing up for him, and that's huge. He wasn't like, yeah, you know what? Screw it. I finally have my excuse. This is my easy way out. Let's finally get Negan out of here once and for all. Daryl's like, I don't know, guys. Like he didn't mean to. Saving Lydia, who Daryl really, has, sort of a brotherly, fatherly sort of, affinity for.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That was a huge moment for me watching the show, to see Daryl be like, he's not wrong in this. Just it goes to show that in time, Daryl has also been like, okay, at least has put that in a place where he's fine with Negan's existence and believes in treating him like the prisoner that he is, and not, being overcome by his own desire for vengeance, unlike Carol. And
plus, in season 11, I would love to see Negan and Maggie come face to face yet again. Ooh. After all this time. I mean, this will be 7 years now since they last saw each other, and she nearly killed him in a cell. So that's something that I look forward to, and I hope Negan survives the season.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's
Who
good.
knows what will happen?
No, I said this like weeks ago. I want to see more than anything Maggie to come back with a bunch of Commonwealth stormtroopers, and they get to Alexandria, and she sees everything, and she's like, oh, I love this. This is my old hometown. Terrific. And the doors open, and here's Negan.
I'm the mayor.
And she's like, bye. Credits.
like
no, you're not. Holy fucking shit. Like, nobody will not watch that next episode.
If they do that, I really need the doors to open for Maggie to see Negan, and for Negan to see Maggie and just look petrified. I need him to be like, hi, like speechless for the one and only time in his life.
Real quick, does Negan doesn't think that Maggie's still dead, right? Remember when he came back?
No, I mean, he hears all the rumors. He kind of gets all the news from people who happen to be walking by his cell, and I think Judith has probably told him that they're actively communicating with Maggie wherever she is, Commonwealth. And I don't know, but probably. And so he knows that she's still out there.
Oh, okay, great.
But she definitely doesn't know that he's still around.
And when he's in a leadership position, It's gonna be great.
I'm personally I would love it if Maggie just ran into Alexandria and like bypassed all the niceties and just ran straight up to like Rick and Michonne's house and banged on the door and was like, guys, I'm home. And then it opens the door and here's Negan. And he's like taking care of Judah.
He's like, Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, he's got a pot of spaghetti that he's just like putting like pasta
Small
sauce
apron.
into.
He's got an apron on.
He's
Yeah. Oh.
Kiss the cook in the front of it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What if they like?
Pull up a chair.
Negan loves a barbecue.
What if they both like have too much and like have like sort of like an anger bang?
Oh, too far.
I don't think it's
Absolutely
out of
not.
the realm.
That's Vegas odds of like 100-1.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Take that action.
No, absolutely not.
I'm putting $1,000.
Gentlemen.
Look, I take that action as the perfect segue to our next bit, but I just want to say this this one thing really quick about like where does Negan fall in the hero villain spectrum? Because we've established The Walking Dead, there's no heroes or villains, it's all just bloody gray. Negan in the TV show loves kids. He protects Judith. He protects Carl. Like, and that is not in your lexicon of how like villains and heroes work. No villain loves and protects all children. Like, and so
I was
to me,
about
that
to make
just
a
kind of
point
like,
about the governor, but good save.
so the way that he cares for every single child that he runs across, to me, skews hero.
And unfortunate for Brandon, he missed the cutoff by just 2 years.
If you're an annoying little shit, you also die.
Well, also too, like the I think like the idea in terms of villain, I think Michonne's explanation is very telling. She's very telling. No, when she's sitting at his bedside or coming to visit him, she's like, "You're not evil, Negan. You're an asshole." And I think that really sums it up.
It's such a girlfriend line.
Ooh, shipping it.
All right, so now on to our question of the week. Really excited about this one. We asked you guys, what Negan line would you say in bed? And, you know, we thought that was like a really funny question. Shout out to Alexandra and Woody who came up with that. And we got some amazing responses. And it turns out nearly everything Negan says can be used in some kind of way in the bedroom.
And our listener fan base are horny freaks.
You guys are weird, and we fucking love you for
I
it.
celebrate every single one of you strange, sex-crazed weirdos.
So before we get into your amazing responses, Woody, what is your favorite Negan line or lines to use in the bedroom?
I found 6, so I'm going to use 2.
Thank you.
All right, this first one. And I'm going to do it in a terrible Negan impression. Should we all do Negan impressions while we do these?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. That's 90% of the reason I wanted to do this thing.
My Negan impression starts to like borderline on like a bad Pacino, but let's go. Now I know this is a screwed up thing to ask, but it's going to need to be like a salami slice.
That works.
You do the same stink eye as your dad, except it's only half as good.
Oh, man. It's funny because of incest.
Well,
I guess it's not incest.
No, I was thinking like
No, it's just really-
he just
He
fucked the whole
fucked-
family.
Really
Fuck the whole
messed
family.
up.
He'll fuck your family.
And yeah, and his dad wasn't as good, or her dad. I don't know. And on that line, I'll do this last one. I could never do this with Rick. He would just be standing there, scowling.
That is A+. That is the best one.
Yeah.
All right, Alexandra.
Is that you, Rick, underneath all that man bush?
That's fantastic.
Where were we? Oh, yeah, your giant man-sized balls.
That's pretty on the nose.
Negan's definitely like bi in a lot of these. And, oh, crap. Are you okay down there? He's a sensitive lover.
Yeah.
All right, so I started off with the GIF on Twitter where Negan said, "What's about to happen is going to be really hard to watch."
To me in real life, for me in real life.
Now I'm going to yield the rest of the time to the fans, who you guys all had amazing responses. This one I didn't get it first, and then I got it, and now I love it. Little pig, let me in.
Oh,
God.
Very gross.
These make me never want to see a Negan love scene or desperate to see a Negan love scene, and
I
I
think it's desperate.
cannot decide.
Yep.
All right. You will do your job. And then finally, look at my dirty girl.
Yep.
That's one.
Spoken in admiration.
In admiration. So that was hilarious. And if you guys have more, feel free to tweet them at The Walking Dead. Just randomly. Just do at The Walking Dead and just put in your favorite Negan line or Negan gif, and I'll find them.
That you
We'll-
think works well in the bedroom.
Hashtag bedroom Negan.
Ooh, bedroom Negan. I love that. I love that.
That's again, hashtag bedroom Negan.
Yes.
One word.
And please send that to @WoodyTondorf on Twitter.
And then I will forward that to @The Walking Dead.
Never heard of it.
It's up and coming. You should see it.
All right. Well, that was hilarious.
I loved that.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Talk Dead to Me. We had a lot of fun talking about Negan. Someday, I hope that Jeffrey Dean Morgan will himself just host the podcast, get rid of all of us, and lock us in his basement, you style.
That's oddly specific and like your tone is hopeful.
It's just something I want. Penn Badgley can be there too.
Use the secret.
I'm into it.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys interact with us on Twitter, @The Walking Dead. I'm always there. You guys can reply on anything I tweet, even if it's random. If you just want to give us feedback, or if you want to give us more specific feedback, you can definitely email us at tdtm@skybound.com. tdtm@skybound.com. Love you. And that's it.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Birthday, Nate.
Have you guys ever seen, do you guys know the Matt Damon Entourage, like the B-plot?
absolutely.
Like,
The
he's,
clean water one.
He's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
it so much.
Oh my God, the credit sequence where he's just sitting there yelling at Vince to donate and eventually just keeps yelling and yelling and it goes clip by clip until finally he's just crying into the cell phone.
I think that's secretly why most people like Entourage, just because it goes from celebrity cameo to celebrity cameo, whether it's Bob Saget, LeBron James, Matt Damon. It's just fantastic. And it kind of holds the show together because these are like 4 problematic bachelors.
Yeah.
But then you would get to like